Hello everyone and welcome to The Build Show. I'm John Peitzman, JP, certified high performance coach and creator of the Build Framework. I work with individuals all over the world to help them thrive in their personal and professional lives. And as the host of this show, we transform lives one guest at a time. How do we do that? By having amazing guests, and today is no different. Today we have with us Lee Bundy. Lee is one of Australia's leading collective awareness change facilitators, teaching higher consciousness strategies. He's worked with numerous sports icons and CEOs on realigning their mind and inner world so that they can create the reality they choose and then experience that reality in every moment. He has facilitated dozens of inner mind transformational retreats while living in Bali, Melbourne, and LA, and he's been involved in higher level coaching and discovering higher performance of what is possible for human beings, as well as overall self-discovery for over 10 years. I'm so excited about this conversation today. Lee, thanks so much for joining us on The Build Show.
Thank you for the intro.
Yeah,
Great.
So tell us, other than that intro, about your journey and what brings you here today and what you're kind of focused on and excited about right now.
Many things. So, a lot of things how we label ourselves, and a lot of people do ask, what do you do? And it is bringing out the best in humans, if you want to put it in a nutshell. And I like to lead through life experience. So I was really good at, ruining my life and making bad decisions, as we all do. And then I put myself in a place of finding myself through education, through neurolinguistics programming, like yourself, the peak performance, understanding values, beliefs, and just allowing people to be real as well. One thing, as we've mentioned, allowing people to stand in their power. I'm like I said to you before, I like to kick it just in my Jordans, in my t-shirt, to feel comfortable. And a lot of people, when they're finding themselves or they go through a journey of self-discovery, I see that they lose themselves because you have to look this way, you need to say this, and I find that a lot of people lose themselves through the journey of becoming more successful.
They try to act a part instead of being authentic.
Exactly. The thing I love, many things I love about you, it's about being able to, I might look big and scary, but being able to drop in your heart and be able to have that deep and meaningful conversation. So a lot of the things that I help people with is understanding their greatness and how to bring out the best in them in many ways without using many labels. So if that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
And what is your journey that brought you to that? I mean, you said you were really good at getting in trouble or doing bad things. What's the short version of that for people who don't know and want to know about what brought you here today?
So, I really found it hard to communicate a long time ago. Public speaking, doing interviews like this was really hard for me back in the day. And how I discovered myself was being able to give back, be that leader, be able to, lead from the front and give that, give people an understanding of themselves. So how I thought I would be accepted was that I started being with different groups. So, bikie groups and, just being the bully, because that's how I felt. When I was working a 9-to-5 job, I used to do, I was an electrician, and here in Melbourne, or I should say not in Melbourne, but here in Australia, when you are a sparky in that sort of field, in the that, let me say, like a trade field, I don't know if it's the same in the States, that there's a lot of bullying going on. There's a lot of, I wouldn't say it's the classiest industry to be a part of. And I was a big guy, and I wasn't heard. So the way I thought that I'd be heard is, was forced by being physical, becoming the bully. So I was bullied, and then I become the bullied. So then, I didn't know how to communicate when I was out on the streets. I wasn't very good with women either. So I thought, well, how am I going to get seen? How am I going to get heard? So I thought, well, look at these guys that, these big dudes, and they get tattoos, and they're not all of them are the same, and they wear these vests and ride these motorbikes. Look, people seem a bit scared of them, and it's that fear and that brotherhood that brought me to that. But the thing was, I come from a very good family. I come from morals, beliefs, values, and all the stuff that we both teach. And there was a bit of a conflict of interest. So I was either going to end up in a hole or behind bars. And I saw my parents. If you see them, they've got white hair. It's not because they've died; it's because of the stress. So I really needed to find a way that I could find myself and give back. And going back a little bit, I played college basketball in the States, so I've always been that person that's been a great leader. I played the NCAA, which you probably know what that is, of course, for Iowa Hawkeyes, and I played high-level AFL football.
Right.
So I was always a leader, and I didn't want to be like, oh, look at me. I wanted to help others, and I wanted to lead from the front. So that leadership, when I was younger, went away when I went into the, my career path and into the trade. And then I was just like, I know I've got more than me just
that potential, right?
Yeah, and it was the conformity. And like even sharing this now, like I always get this red hot flush just reliving it again because it is. I love to share it. And I love, I want people to feel, and a lot of people go through the same that. We live life, but do we really fit in? Or why should we fit in? And, how do we know we fit in? But, my message is you don't have to fit in as long as you feel okay in your own skin.
Exactly. No, that's amazing. I think the beauty, and thank you for the vulnerability and sharing that with everyone, because the beauty also is the ability to have the awareness to break the pattern, right? Because so many people, are abused, they become the abuser or bully, whatever words you use, and that pattern is just ongoing. But through awareness, we can break that, and then we can help others break that as well, and 100%. Know that we can do that.
Yeah.
And as you know, in this conversation, we kind of use BUILD as the framework for that. For those of you who don't know yet what BUILD is about, it's an acronym, of course. It stands for Build Relationships, Understand the Business, Implement Strategies, Lead and Inspire, and Deliver Excellence. So I think what would be really helpful is just understand that journey and everything you're doing now in that context, starting with B, Build Relationships, and talk about maybe one of the most pivotal relationships that you had in that journey that helped you the most.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I really believe it's the relationship I had with myself, firstly.
Right.
That I couldn't respect, if I didn't respect myself, no one else was going to respect me. I wasn't open to gaining that respect. It's the same as self-love. I'm not going to, be able to take in love if I'm not loving myself. And, it all starts within to, receive without. And like in anything, business, relationship, I really believe that when you have that relationship with yourself, that all other relationships start to flourish in, as a side effect.
Right. And if you look at how that leads to you, which is understand the business, and you understand a lot through your journey, what key element of understanding the business do you think is important for our listeners to hear as it relates to your journey?
Like with the business that I'm working through now, it's so funny. I have a conflict when people say business or like, I always say sort of purpose and, some people say job or work. That's probably why I was, with that little metabolizing it, that if you don't know yourself, no one else is going to know you. And we can be in front of cameras or we can be on stage. If we don't know who we are, if we aren't connecting or speaking from the heart, it's going to be felt from the head instead of the heart. So there's that disconnect.
100%.
So I knew that, and I really believe that my business grew as I grew. So as I grew as a person and understood myself, people would connect with me, and I would get to know them even better. So we're in the business of helping others, and I can read a book and regurgitate information and say, oh yeah, that's good, and Tony Robbins told me to do this, and someone else, but until you can sit there with a person and have that heart-to-heart connection, that's where the results really started to come then.
Right. And in understanding the business, because in the intro and in my research, I've heard the term collective awareness change facilitator, right? So help us understand the business of what is collective awareness change facilitation.
So if you look at a clock, or even a watch, and you take off you pull back the face of it, you've got different mechanisms. In every different ecosystem, like people in a team. So I work with some sporting teams and let's say business environment, so to speak. And let's say one of the wheels is the CEO. So that's the biggest one, and they're all interconnected. So the collective awareness is not telling people what to do. You should do this and you do that, and because everything is in turn, and if everything isn't in sync, it's not going to, the clock's not going to tick over. Right. And that's that hand to success.
So the cogs in the wheel, making sure everyone knows how it all interrelates 100%. And what their part is doing to help the other, not just in isolation.
100%. That's the better way to say it.
Right.
And it's because I walk into a lot of let's say companies, the CEO's barking orders and you're pushing people that way instead of
just because I said so, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm up here and you're down there, I tell you, right? That,
exactly.
How does that work, by the way?
Yeah, and that's why I got out of the whole 9 to 5. Not saying that that's a bad thing. It just wasn't for me. So collective awareness, like I've worked with sporting teams. Instead of if we're talking about AFL football, everyone has a different part. And the thing with that is you don't just say, okay, you do this and you do that. You need to know each other's strengths, each other's weaknesses.
Right.
And it's like a collective consciousness that you're all tuned into the same consciousness. So it's like a channel of thinking, if that makes sense.
And that has to help win games then too.
It does.
Because on the field you're talking about too. I mean, on the field of business
yes.
and on the field of sport, this sounds like the same kind of mentality.
It is very similar.
Right.
Yeah, and like I'd like to share some I'll have to keep it confidential, but the teams I work with are quite professional in Melbourne, and they came third in the league last year, which was good. Yeah,
which was a step up from where they were.
Definitely
I
was.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome. How about moving on to I, which is implement strategies? What are some effective strategies that you have implemented throughout your journey that you think would be useful for our listeners here today?
Yeah, one that I would love to live by is people will take action these days, but they're taking action, and one of the models is people programming. Your programming leads to your thoughts lead to your feelings lead to your beliefs lead to your behaviors, and then your behaviors lead to your actions. That a lot of people are taking action, and if we go backwards, action and behaviors is the outside world.
Right.
Beliefs, feelings, then thoughts, and programming is all the internal world. It's like driving a car. So if I was driving from Melbourne up to here in Sydney, I sort of know where to go. But if I don't put my GPS in or use Google Maps as we do today, I'm not gonna get there efficiently. So a lot of people awake in the day, or they will take action, and they're unaligned. And the thing what they're not understanding, if you're not constantly, as Dr. Joe Dispenza says, you can awake and connect to a familiar past, which most of the time, we connect to something which is negative because we become
it's just a pattern, right?
Yeah.
Repeating.
100%. Or we can get up and connect to a predictable future. And if we're not getting up in the morning and, and like you said, putting that pattern in, and telling ourselves the right story, we're going to go back to what we're familiar with. We're going to get conditioned by our environment. Not saying our environment's always bad, but you could have a partner or an environment or a working environment where it's not going to be supporting your growth, and people aren't on the same vibration, if we talk about energy, or their values and beliefs aren't the same. But if you aren't constantly protecting yourself, so to speak, with your programming, your thoughts, your feelings, your beliefs and your behaviors, then the action that you're taking isn't going to be, it's not going to be efficient enough for you to achieve what you desire.
Right, good stuff, amazing. I hope you all are taking notes and replaying this to write that down, because that is gold. So thanks for that. If you lead into then the I to L, which is lead and inspire, you clearly lead and inspire in your life. How do you do that, and how do you help others to lead and inspire in their lives?
I'll be honest with you, when I first started, it was more of an outside thing, that who I thought that I needed to be. And I wasn't getting the results for others what they needed. So the more that I become better at being me and understanding myself, it happened organically. Because I felt like in life it was more force. Like you want people to do good. It's almost like you shake them.
Come on, you can do better.
Yeah, and me being a shaved head guy with tattoos, and a lot of people used to go the other way. But then again, when I learnt more about the heart, some people go, "What are you talking about the heart?" And obviously, it's not actually the physical heart; it's the heart energy and getting out of the head, dropping into the heart, and you feel that. It was a lot easier. I had a lot more clients. They hung around. I started to work with women as well, because as I was sharing before, one of the biggest conflicts I had was that I understand what the males have gone through, but I can't say to a woman, I know what you're feeling. It's a bit incongruent. Right. But as I got a lot more aware, I wasn't telling the person exactly what they were supposed to hear. I was just giving them a better way. And then I knew that through, obviously getting coached myself, being around the right people. And then my leadership happened because I led myself better. So what I'm saying is that the more education I took on, the more internal growth I had. I didn't really need to think so much about, let me think about how I can become a better public speaker, or how I can better communication, or whatever it might be. Right. It was that internal work that really started to have that organic side effect that I led people, because I was leading myself organically.
Right. Well, if you talk about energy, that's because you're resonating at that frequency, right? And that attracts the things that are attracted to that, right? 100%. So we do that versus chasing things. It's a completely different thing. And that's an amazing thing to understand as well.
And I'll just add to that as well. One thing, that's what I felt like. I wanted everything, and I wanted to be successful and help people. And I had resistance, so it was like opposing magnets. Like you put opposing magnets around, and I
kind of push away instead of.
And I was putting more energy into things, and everything. I just felt like relationships, and everything, health, wealth, and so spot on. So
that all leads to delivering excellence, right? So what does excellence mean to you, and how do you deliver excellence every day?
Yeah, that's an interesting and really good question. Excellence, but with NLP terms, it's the study of brilliance and excellence. And, we use words as, a label. Excellence to me comes in many different shapes and sizes and forms and sexes. Excellence is something that you feel. It's like when you talk about a heartfelt, you meet someone, you have a conversation. Right. And something that I feel like, I can watch someone on YouTube, or I can, read a book and have, feel the word, so to speak. But, because I got asked that question a while ago, and excellence is someone just standing in their power and someone comfortable in themselves, and you can really feel it.
It's really a physical thing, isn't it? It's actually tangible.
Yeah.
Cool. So what are your keys to help people get to that place where they can actually stand in their own power? Are there any tips and tricks you can share?
Daily rehearsal, as some people call meditation. Daily rehearsal of connecting, with all your, I really believe in all your different areas of life, your health, your wealth, contribution, family, legacy. You can say self-relationship's the biggest one, and then passion and purpose. They're my 6. That you're connecting, you're creating that single identity every day.
Right.
Like your separate identity for your health, separate identity for your wealth, relationship, and so on. And that people really want to practice who they want to be. So don't just get up and be busy taking, physical action. Sit down, switch off to the outside world of distraction. And like an actor, you have to rehearse the lines. You have to embody that identity. You don't see the same actor being the same person in all the different roles. And if spending that time to be very clear of who you want to become, and you're doing the internal work, switching off to the noise, the scatter, some people say, and working on who you want to be. Right,
and setting that intention for who you are at work, who you are as a father, who you are as a partner, and ensuring that you're stepping into your best self.
Exactly.
100%. We could talk all day.
Yeah, I know.
So I always ask too, as we kind of wrap things up, what are some words of wisdom or other things that we haven't mentioned yet that have been instrumental in your success that you would want to share with the audience who is watching and listening here today?
Yeah, there's many things I say. One of the words I stick by is alone we're unique, but together we're unstoppable. And that's a little bit of a, I'm into the superheroes, and you see the superheroes have got their own power like everyone. Right. Here we're all our own superhero, but together we're even more powerful.
Right.
And obviously being around the right people. And the other thing that I stick by is it's a thing that I said a long time ago: show the world nothing, but show yourself everything. So in this modern age of social media and digital warfare, so to speak, everyone's look at me. It's like a monkey in a light.
Exactly.
And I can really, now that I'm very, intuitive with myself, you can see that, and there's a big disconnect. So you don't have to, yes, it's important to get your message out in the right way, congruently, authentically, as we are here, but also, it's too much show and tell. Tell yourself, and you're putting the energy outwards instead of putting it inwards, and have that internal growth.
Right, amazing, good stuff. How about how people can get a hold of you and other services you provide, or what you want them to know about reaching out and having a further conversation with you?
On all social media platforms, so Facebook, it's Lee Bundy, Leigh. On my other pages, it's the Ultimate Flow Experience. Not the total, the Ultimate Flow Experience.
Gotcha.
And then the other, I've got a lot of pages from my team to keep. It's hard to keep up with, to be honest with you.
Right.
The other one is Lee Bundy, teaching others how to live in flow state. Instagram, Lee_Bundy. LinkedIn, the same, Lee Bundy. You'll see my ugly head up there.
Right. And your main website is just leebundy.com?
No, that's the Ultimate Flow.
Oh, Ultimate. Okay, gotcha. We'll put it up on the trailer. See, it's right there. Magic of production. and they can check that out and get all those links.
Yeah, a lot of information. I like to, meet people in person, because what people see on, social media and that, and then like when they meet you and, you sit down and have a coffee.
It's a different thing, yeah.
Exactly. So that's more of a congruent thing that I like to do with, meeting new people.
Great, awesome. Well, thank you for meeting me and having this time together. I really
No worries.
appreciate you
Thank you.
being on the show. Thank all of you for joining us as well. If you'd like to get even more resources to help you become your best self, you can check out thebuildframework.com for information, including a free sample of the Build Framework online course. This is it for this episode. We'll see you next time on The Build Show.